Now, you can't live in the global south and not know about the Mughals. And even if you don't live in the global south, you've definitely seen some of the things that the Mughals did while in South Asia, especially through their architecture, like this, or this. But what's funny is that these rulers that came all the way from Central Asia would throw a heavy fit if they were alive today and they saw what their empire is being called. The Mughal Empire? Why is that, you may ask? Now, before I tell you, give me your best guess. Why do you think they hate their name? I'll give you some time. Hi, my name is Misha and welcome to Tarihi Tales. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. Okay, now to kind of find out what the answer to our earlier asked question is, we have to first know a little bit about who these people were before they became the Mughals. So the Mughals ruled the majority of North India from the early 16th century all the way to the mid 18th century. And this dynasty was founded by a guy called Zahiruddin Muhammad Babur. And Babur, of course, was not at all native to India. He was in fact born in an area called Fargana, which today lies in Uzbekistan. And even in Fargana, Babur wasn't just like a random person. He was the crown prince of Fargana because his father ruled that land. And Babur's father, Umar Sheikh Mirza, was actually among one of the many Timurid princes that ruled different areas of Central Asia at that time. All of these areas were kind of captured by their ancestors and they kept dividing into all the next generation. So now there are a lot of small princes in this land which ruled smaller pieces of land. And the ancestor that I'm talking about, which conquered all of these areas, Babur's ancestor, was called Amir Timur, which we also know as Temurlung, Timurlane, Tamerlane. He has many names, but he's a very popular figure throughout the world. But the thing about Babur's heritage is the fact that his ancestors don't include just one really big conqueror. In fact, his ancestors had two very major conquerors. One of them was Amir Timur, and then the other one was Genghis Khan, or as we call him, Genghis Khan. Both Timur and Genghis Khan themselves had a common ancestor called Tumanne Khan, and you can see their lineage through this graph. Now, when we look at Timur himself, he kind of made sure to distinguish himself from the Mongols and did not associate with them. He wanted to carve out his own identity, and similarly, Babur's father, Umar Sheikh Mirza, also associated more as a Timurid prince rather than as a Mongol prince, which he could have done, but he didn't. And Babur himself had the same sentiments. He saw himself as a continuation of the Timurid dynasty. And it's not something that we're just assuming that Babur thought. We have some solid evidence. Now, yes, Babur was the founder of the Mughal Empire, but he did one more thing that was phenomenal, and that was that he kept a kind of diary, a journal. And I know there are a lot of usual court histories like the Akbarnama, or even in the Ottoman courts, there were court histories that were written. But the thing about Babur's journal or diary is that nobody was writing it for him. This was literally his own personal journal, and the writing itself, it's all Babur, and it's written so raw, it's written so humanely that it's one of the most unique pieces of literature that exists today. And a lot of historians actually fawn over the book called Baburnama because it just gives us a massive insight into the world in that day and age and what was going inside of Babur and the surroundings. It's not a court history, it's like his own personal diary. And within the Baburnama is where we find Babur making a clear distinction between himself and the Mongols, and he says that he's a continuation of the Timurid Gurkhanian Sultanate and nothing else. So you may wonder, well then where does this random word Mughal come from? If Babur is calling himself a Timurid prince in his own journals, then where does Mughal come from? Well, Babur himself has actually used this word almost 400 times in his book. But he used this word to describe the Mongols of the time. And unfortunately, when he's talking about the Mongols, he's not talking in a very pleasant tone. He doesn't really like them. He actually has a horrible opinion of them. And by this point in time, the Mongols that Babur is talking about and the people that he associated himself with, the Chagatai Turkish people, now those two groups of people have actually become very distinctly different. For starters, the Chagatai Turkish people, who had some ancestors who were Mongols, also had Turkish ancestors, and these people had accepted Islam. And their way of life was a much more settled way of life as compared to the Mongols. And in their heads, and also visibly, these were now two separate kind of peoples. Timurids had a more Persian and Islamic influence in their life than the Mongols of the time. So it makes perfect sense as to why Babur would not associate at all with the Mongols. And the word in Chagatai Turkish for Mongols was actually Mughals. It was spelled, you can spell it in English differently, but the word was Mughals. So imagine that if he wakes up today and he finds that this massive empire that he started and he named it the Timurid Gurkhanian Sultanate, and then all of us just went ahead and called it the Mughal Empire. I mean, he's gonna die again of shock. It's a horrible thing to do to a guy. So there you go. That's why the founders of the Mughal Empire would actually really hate it being called the Mughal Empire. In fact, even during its lifetime, that's not what it was called. Some of the emperors later called it a Hindustani Sultanate or something like that, but never Mughal Empire. So if you like this video, make sure to share, like, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.